الله أكبر الله.
الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه. أما بعد، قال الله تعالى في قرآنه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فلا تزكوا أنفسكم هو أعلم بمن اتقى. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدومها وإن قل، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم، ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم، وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Alhamdulillah. Today is January 1st, 2021. So we are very lucky for the new year to be starting on this blessed day of Jumu'ah. We begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and showing our gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us, for giving us the ability to make it this far and to experience this new year. And as we look into the future, we continue to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us in good health and afiyah in this upcoming year. So now every new year, the topic of New Year's resolutions always comes up. Every new year, everybody wants to make New Year's resolutions and try to be a completely different person than they were the year previous. And especially this year, since many people went into 2020 very optimistic, right? 2020 was going to be your year. You're going to seize the year in 2020. But then what happened? It didn't really work out for anybody, right? Many people, instead of 2020 being the year for everybody to have success and go forward, many people ended up just going through hardships and difficulty for the entire year. Many people lost their jobs, many people lost their family members, their friends. Especially this year, we lost many of the greatest scholars of our time. Schools closed, and everything is online. Masajid closed. Students lost motivation for school since everything is online. The economy crashed. Like this year just has not been good overall. Nevertheless, we should never lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He can always turn things around, and we continue to be grateful and count the infinite blessings that He has provided us. But coming back to New Year's resolutions, this year especially has become the year for many people to take the negativity that they faced in this previous year and turn it into something positive. But let's be honest, New Year's resolutions never really work, right? It's not possible for a person to completely change who they were just because the new year came. You can't suddenly just decide to build a new habit and just right when the new year starts, you're suddenly a changed person. That's not how it works, and that's why New Year's resolutions never fail. If you go to the gym, you'll see that for the first week or two of the year, of every year, the gym will always have more people than usual. But then afterwards, it just goes back to normal, right? Nobody can really stick to it. So that's why when it comes to setting Islamic goals for the new year, when we set religious goals for ourselves, we should keep the same thing in mind. That we can't just decide that this year I'm going to be religious, this year I'm going to start praying, this year I'm going to start reading Quran every night. Because unless there's some sort of build up to it, it's not going to work. You can start, maybe do it for a week or two, and then you'll just crash and go back to how you were before. So one thing, that instead of just making new goals and mindlessly just making new goals, we should actually think about what our goals are. We should reflect over ourselves. We should think about what happened this previous year. What are things that we actually need to improve on? Specifically, many times we may think that we have a certain quality. We may think that we're very grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but in actuality we're not. We just make ourselves believe that we have these certain good qualities in ourselves, but we actually don't. We may think that we've reached a certain spiritual level, so then we begin to start setting new goals, which is great, right? When you complete one goal, you move on to the next one. But the thing is, that only works if you've actually completed the previous goal. Right? People think that they've done something when they actually haven't. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He says in the Quran, فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Never call yourself pure. فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Don't say that I'm a pure person, that I'm a religious person, I've accomplished this, I've achieved this. هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اتَّقَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who truly knows who has taqwa, who is the most pious. So we should never feel content with ourselves, and we should never think that I've done enough, let me move on to something else now. So we just make ourselves believe these things. So that's why we should actually truly sit down and self-reflect over what qualities do we actually have, and what qualities do we just make ourselves believe that we have. Before moving on to new endeavors, we should really think, have we accomplished our old ones? It's very likely that the good qualities we think we have, and the bad habits that we thought we got rid of, we haven't actually done anything with them. We tend to overlook our own faults and make excuses for ourselves. So when we may fall back into this bad habit, we say, it's just a one-time thing. Right? You just make excuses for yourself. And then what does that mean? That means you truly haven't really gotten over your bad habit. Same thing for good qualities. You slip up once and then you think, okay, it's fine, it's just once. But then what happens? It keeps happening over and over again. So you haven't really accomplished anything. So for example, a person may think that they're grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? They give shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every day, on a daily basis. But then what happens when just one of these blessings is removed? Then they just forget about all the other ones. They go into such a deep sadness, and then they just completely forget. They say, how could Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forsake me? How could He take away this blessing that He's given me? So although a person may have been grateful in times of prosperity, just one affliction, just one hardship made it all go away. So is this person really truly grateful? I think the same thing could be said. A person may think that I don't backbite, I don't slander, I don't have jealousy or hatred towards others. But at the same time, they entertain all of these sort of ideas in their heads. And then they make excuses for themselves. And they say, well, at least I'm not talking about it, at least I'm not saying it out loud. So has this person really gotten over the diseases of the heart, the spiritual diseases of the heart? No. They're just making themselves believe that they have. So this is why we should really sit down and self-reflect over the qualities that we want to have and the qualities that we think we have but we don't actually have. And one of a very classic example of this is when people tend to get their culture confused with their deen. Right? A person may think that they're doing something religious, but in actuality all they're doing is just following their culture and it has nothing to do with Islam at all. And one example of this may not be so applicable to us nowadays, but it will still put things into perspective, is forced marriages. It doesn't happen in America, and maybe even back home it doesn't happen as much as it used to. But what happens? People have this concept of haya, of modesty, right? So then they think that a woman should not be able to speak up for herself. She won't be allowed to even see the person that she's marrying until the day of the wedding. And she won't be able to say anything, she just has to agree to it. And if she does speak up, then she's considered shameless. She doesn't have any haya, she doesn't have any modesty. This is completely against Islam. But people do this in the name of Islam. They think that this is what haya is, this is what modesty is. They think that they have this good quality. But in actuality, they're doing the complete opposite of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do. Right? By consensus, the scholars have said that haya is a quality which is supposed to prevent a person from doing bad things, and it's supposed to prevent a person from not fulfilling the rights of others, because they have this shame that if I don't fulfill somebody else's rights, then something will happen to me. They will look down on it. So when you're forcing someone into marriage, are you fulfilling their rights? Are you giving them the rights that they are due? No, that's completely against haya. Right? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Al-haya'u khayrun kullu. Al-haya'u la ya'ti illa bi khayr. Modesty and haya is only good. It can only bring good. So how is this forced marriage the outcome of haya? So what does that show? That shows that it's not actually haya. Right? That's just something that a person has confused their culture with Islam. And they think that they have this quality when they actually don't. So the main point of mentioning all of this is that we should get ourselves educated. And we should think, do we actually have these qualities? Have we actually gotten rid of our bad habits? Do we actually have these good qualities that we think we have? Or are we just getting it confused with something else? Are we making excuses for ourselves? Do we think that we have these good qualities, but we actually don't at all? We're just getting it confused with something else. And instead of trying to just move on to new things, setting new goals, and just making our list longer, we should focus on the things that we already have and make sure that these things that we already have that we actually have them. right? That these good qualities that we think we have, we should make sure that we actually have them before just increasing the list and adding more things to it. Then one by one, you keep increasing from the bottom, but then from the top, everything just gets erased. So what's the point then? Right? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, أَحَبُّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَدْوَمُهَا وَإِنْ قَلَّ. The most beloved action to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most consistent one. So when a person continues to just add new things, but then they're not consistent with it, they just keep changing everything, then they're not doing the most beloved action to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, وَإِنْ قَلَّ, even if it's small, as long as you're consistent with it, and as long as you're doing it properly, then that is what is most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq to really better ourselves in this new year, to reflect over all the mistakes that we've made in this past year. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all good health and afiyah in this upcoming year. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد بعدد من صلى وصام اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد بعدد من قعد وقام وصل على جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى كل ملائكة المقربين وعلى عباد الله الصالحين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون ولذكر الله تعالى أعلى وأولى وأعز وأجل وأتم وأهم وأكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون أقيموا الصلاة